Supervisors meeting for September 18th, 2012. We'll begin our meeting with the salute to the flag, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. Mrs. Pullen, for the roll, please.
Mr. Galloway?
Here.
Mr. Snipes?
Here.
Mr. Harvey?
Here.
Mr. Dents?
Here.
Mr. Russell?
Here.
All right, thank you. Thank you for the people being out here tonight on a pretty nasty evening in terms of weather. Mr. Gray is getting our sign-in sheet for public comments. First item on our agenda. Speakers are reminded the 5-minute maximum per person. We have a 45-minute maximum overall, which we usually don't get anywhere near. So first name on the list is Mr. Kinney.
Roland Kinney, Falls Township. First, I'd like to thank you, Mr. Chairman, for being at the Senior Center today. Mr. Snipes, we missed you other three. Shame you had to work. And Mr. Gray was there. Mr. Sullivan was there. I think his name's Bob. That's John Galloway's man.
Yes, Mr. Suby.
Yeah, and Mike Fitzpatrick was there. We had the gentleman who runs the senior in Harrisburg. He was there.
Mm-hmm.
Had a lot of people there. It turned out to be a nice day.
Yeah. The rain held off. It was not. You're right.
Second, tonight a young man's being laid out. Another officer was killed. Marine that took two tours in the war, and he's being laid out tonight. Tomorrow, I think he's being buried in the National Cemetery we have up the road there. I don't know what we got to do to stop this. There's enough love in this world to go around. All this hatred, and we got the clowns across the sea burn their flags. Where the hell they get all these flags at? They must have a private stash of them someplace, because I know I didn't send them none. Next, everybody I talk to still is against this island, this Vias Island. Say it's not the money that we're going to put in it at the beginning. It's going to take an awful lot of money to run it and keep it up. And they feel what they have now, they have everything any township would want. And I'm just telling you what the people say. You make up your own mind, because they say, how do you stop what they did to me? I want to keep money in our treasury, and my board wanted to spend the money. So the way they be able to spend that money got me, threw me off the board. So now they're spending money like it's no, illegal stuff they're doing. But with that, have a good night. God bless you.
Thank you. Mr. Mariani?
What we want to avoid here is what happened to municipalities like Stockton, California, and presently now about 200 others that find themselves in economic distress because they obligated their communities to unnecessary projects well beyond the role of government. Now, Stockton gave 3 reasons for their bankruptcy: soaring cost of benefits and pensions, unaffordable amenities, and green energy. Now, I'd like to compare this to our present circumstance. And when I look at it, our employees now contribute 5% to their health care. And that's versus 20 to 29% in the private sector. The benefit cost here now, I would say, is probably around $34,000 versus $15,100 for a family in the private sector. When you talk about the cost of retirement plan, you got your MMOs coming up, so you could discuss it at that time. But what Stockton did, they built amenities. They built an arena. They built a marina. And they just couldn't afford the maintenance costs after that. Now, I caution this board to what I call amenity creep. And I think we have some of that in this township. As well run as it is, we have that. We built a dog park, a skate park, a boat ramp, who I guess the cost must be pushing $2 million by now, $1.5 million for a senior center, and we're considering $15 million for a new municipal complex. Now, with Biles Island, I think we're creating another unaffordable amenity without providing any means of financial support to maintain it in the future. Now, I don't think we've properly assessed the need for a nature center, playground, fishing pier, bird watching, restaurant, another boat ramp, pedestrian bridge, boardwalk, and a green technology center, which we've got to have that. Now, have we assessed, my question to the board is, have we assessed the ADA cost on the accessibility guidelines for outdoor developed areas? I don't think we've had. What they're talking about, the ADA is talking about there is for trails, outdoor recreational access routes, beach access routes, picnic and camping facilities. These costs alone, I'm telling you, will be staggering. Green technology, I wish it would work today. Unfortunately, it don't. But I'll give you a quick lesson in green technology. Green technology cannot fuel trains, planes, automobiles, and they probably won't be able to do it for the next 30 years. I don't know why we need one here. Now, I'm going to tell you something. Long before any of you have a note pinned on your sweater and have some oatmeal wiped off your chin by a pretty nurse, this township is no longer going to be collecting host fees. How will you maintain this monstrosity? I don't know. My personal opinion about Biles Island is that this is nothing. I regard it as a lunatic environmental adventure, because that's what it is, being pushed by environmentalists, and a vote to support absolutely any phase of this plan, I believe, is a vote for reckless spending, and it's going to create financial Armageddon in Falls Township. I believe it will bankrupt eventually Falls Township. This is not phase one. It won't stop at phase one. It's going to keep on going. It's an environmental thing. So I ask you to drop this project. We don't need it. We don't want it. Most of all, we can't afford it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Todd Harbison.
Yeah, good evening. My name's Todd Harbison. I reside at 15 East Trenton Ave, town of Fallsington. I'm here tonight. My wife and I recently filed a letter of intent to open a dance studio in a room in our basement. I was going through our zoning. We are zoned as NRC. Is it NRC or NCR? And going through the zoning ordinances, did find that our property is allowed to be used for educational purposes. Basically, it refers you back to the 20912 low-density residential district, your principal permitted uses, subsection 7, educational facilities. So I just wanted to touch on that a little bit, and also I had a couple of other things I just wanted to bring to your attention and let you know about us as well. We've been in the community, I guess, about 6 years now, I believe. I'm very proud to be a part of Fallsington. It is a beautiful town. We're on the outskirts of the historic part. Although our home was built back in those days, it was a chicken coop in its original use and was converted to a home approximately 60 years ago. My wife has been teaching dance for over 23 years now. She holds a degree from Mercer in dance. She is a certified teacher. She also has her bachelor's from LaSalle. So she has the credentials. She's been working, as I said, with another studio for 23 years. The studio seemed to have been going into a different direction, forcing my wife to basically seek alternative employment. Some of her students, myself included, told her maybe she should think about going on her own, because she's, as far as we're concerned, wonderful at what she does. As I said, we're very proud to be part of the Fallsington community. She's planning on getting a table Fallsington Day to go up and promote her new dance school. We currently held registration. She has about 26 students, I believe, who want to take dance with her at her studio. We need to move forward, I guess, expeditiously as we can with the intention part of the process, so that we can go and file for proper permits and inspections and whatnot in regards to the home, and see exactly what we need to upgrade to make the facility, up to code. We've also discussed alternative location, which is located across the street from us. It's a antique store. The gentleman who owns that store is currently at his other store, which is down in Wildwood, and it's his busy time, so I only got to speak with him very briefly. He was in limbo about that, so we need to kind of take action and get a place for these kids to go and have a safe and healthy environment to be able to continue to learn their love of dance. I've always been a football guy. Dance to me was always sissies and prima donnas and all that stuff. But in the years that I've known my wife, I've come to love it, and I've come to understand it as a cultural part of my life that I was missing. Our children are very active with dance. I mean, you can't put a beat anywhere in a commercial because it starts a flurry of dance in our home. I'm very proud of that, and I'm very proud of my wife and what she does, and hope that she is able to continue along her way and bring to these children the joy that she has brought to both our children and other children. I think 90% of the kids that are currently signed up are kids that are kids of children, or kids of other parents that my wife had taught at an early age. So I think that speaks fathoms, for what she has done through her career and what she chooses to bring forward to the kids. She doesn't want to be one of them overbearing kind of studios. She wants it to be fun. She wants people to learn the love of dance as she has, and I mean, that's her basic motto. She's not there to be a competition dance studio. She's there to have a fun, safe environment for the kids to be able to learn the love of dance, like I said, as she has. I guess with that, I'll thank you for the opportunity to speak here. I do have copies of the building sketch that was sent in with the letter of intentions. If you'd like to see that now, I don't know if it's proper.
Well, first, Mr. Harbers, I want to thank you for coming out. I think you did an excellent job stating, your wife's case, and certainly, I'm speaking, I guess, for all the board members here. The idea of setting up a dance studio, a small business, is something we welcome. Mm-hmm. My daughter's going to be 11. She's been dancing for 8 years, so I completely understand the thing with the commercials and any beat. I understand that. I understand that as well. I just became really aware a few hours before this meeting of the issue that was going on with the business being in a home, in a residential home, in a residential area. Right. And obviously we do have some, codes and zoning that have to be followed, and you've already stated that you're working toward that. Mr. Bennett, our code enforcement officer, is here. I'm just going to ask him just to comment on where this stands in terms of what, things that need to be done. Is, I guess maybe you can use the microphone right there in front of Mr. Sullivan. You can do that, Mr. Bennett.
Yes, I received the application this afternoon, and I did start to go over some of the items on the application, and when I've been reading into it, and the use would become an assembly use group in A3, and it's in the basement, so there's things I have to check on to make sure that fire separation, parking, if, you have 26 students, where you're going to park the cars.
It is broken up over multiple classes, and I do know that we have to address the parking situation.
Right. And then,
but that would be in the next phase.
There's a lot of research I have to do in the book. It may need sprinklers. It could be a possibility of a conditional use. So I did get this afternoon, and I am looking into it, and I will get back to you as soon as I can on it.
I greatly appreciate that, sir.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we want to see,
I just-
the business and we're aware of it, and Mr. Bennett is anxious to see, positives, uses, and everything else, but we do have to obviously make sure everybody's, going along with the zoning and codes that we have. And safety is the big issue with a lot of this stuff. I mean, obviously, any business that operates in the township, whether it's a big business or a small business, safety is the number one issue. If you have people coming in, customers, we have to make sure that it's safe. That's our responsibility as a township.
Right.
Obviously, we have no doubt that, you want the kids to be safe as well. So we're not questioning that, but we have an obligation to make sure that it follows all the codes and all the zoning ordinances and everything. And so I've full faith, and the board does as well, and Mr. Bennett. In certain townships, the people that are code and zoning officers sort of make it their job to make people miserable. That's not the case with Mr. Bennett. Mr. Bennett really does kind of go out of his way to do what he can to make people, as successful as we can have them. Certainly, we want you to be successful. So, I did get a couple emails. I know some other board members got some emails from parents and things, and there's absolutely no issue in terms of welcoming in a dance studio. We just have to make sure that it meets the criteria that every other business has to meet.
Right.
Okay?
Well, my understanding of the letter of intention was so that we could move forward with permitting and whatnot to be able to get Mr. Bennett to be able to come over and inspect the property
But I
and
think
so forth.
that's what he said. If he has to he has to look first off to see a business like the one you're talking about in the zoning area you're talking about with the kind of customers you're talking about. What criteria do you have to meet? And then
Right.
obviously he'll get back to you.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Again, thank you very much
Okay,
for your time.
Thank you. Sarah Boken, is that right? Hello.
My husband pretty much gave you everything that I had written down to say, but just to give you, he did my background. Like I said, I've danced my whole life since I was 2.5. When I was 13, I had the opportunity to become a student teacher. Totally fell in love with teaching, actually more so than performing. Little ones and seeing their eyes light up when they dance is just amazing. It's a feeling, just can't even imagine it. And then I became a licensed teacher in 1994, and I got my degree from Mercer in dance in 1996, and then my degree from LaSalle. I was an assistant director at the other studio for about 18 years and taught from 2.5 up to adults, actually. And like my husband had said, a lot of the students that have shown interest in coming to dance with me now are children of ones that I taught, which makes me feel a little bit old sometimes, but it's still fun. My basic goal for the studio is to just have a place where the kids can have fun and learn to dance. I have 2 little boys that I've taught at the other studio for 2 years that are 2 twin boys that are autistic children, and their mother has said they've grown so socially just from learning how to move and how to follow directions without even realizing that they're doing it. And she said, if I was teaching somewhere in like a gymnasium, her boys would be there with me. And that warms my heart more than, big trophies or national titles and things of that. So my goal is just to make sure that I feel a lot of times the arts nowadays, because not that it's not a sport, because it is a sport, but gets kind of shoved a little bit to the side of things because things are so expensive. And I feel the art of dance is something that gives children an opportunity where they can feel accepted no matter what. Mm-hmm. And that's so important, because I know how things are, where every child that would walk through my door with a dance studio would feel accepted regardless of whether they were extremely talented. They didn't want to be there. They were crying. I had a mother who was so worried that her daughter, because she cries to go on to Sunday school. I'm like, well, let's just see. This was last year. I'm like, let's just see what happens. And she could not believe that her daughter did not cry at all because she had so much fun. And that's just, and I love my town. I love Fallsington. It's such a fun, sweet little town where everyone kind of does their own thing, but when the community needs to come together, it comes together. I've spoken with all my neighbors, and they have no problem with it. Like I said, we're going to get involved with Fallsington Day and other things that I think can only bring something to the history of Fallsington that a lot of people don't realize, that we have such an important part of history that's like right in our own backyard. And there's a lot of parents and families that were like, we didn't even know this was back here, and that we have the oldest house in Bucks County that's right down the street. And then we have all that other important history with the Native Americans and things of that nature, which I think it would just benefit. And, you know, dance has always been my passion, and passing it on to any child, I just think would be really fun, and I would really appreciate the opportunity to do that. So,
Well,
all right.
Thank you
All
very
right.
much for coming
Thank
out.
you.
Appreciate it. Edgar Latuma?
Good evening. Edgar Litoma from Falls Township. I was here 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, about the soccer fields. Everything is approved. They supposed to start second week of September. I have no idea when they're gonna start.
Well, let's ask Mr. Sullivan. What's the issue with the soccer field renovations?
We're still waiting for one permit.
From
We should from the Conservation District. We
Okay,
should
so-
have that by the end of this week at the latest,
so
and then we start soon thereafter.
so Bucks County, the Bucks County Conservation. Yeah, once again, the county is holding us up on something.
Okay.
So yeah, we have to file permits like other people do when we do
Yeah,
work, and
all right.
so that's what we're waiting on, unfortunately.
And I, for myself and the coaches and my referee over there, I invite you guys, you all 5 guys, we elect the township, we elect you to work for us. One Saturday morning, you can go see how many kids benefits for that. I'm not talking just myself. 5 years old to 18 years old. You can go around 9, 10 o'clock, see how many kids practice there, how many kids using that field. And not like the boat ramp you feel, guys, you build over there. I want to find out now, end of the summer, how many people use that. I think to build these things like the other two gentlemen say about Bylos Island, you're supposed to talk to the people. You're spending a lot of money. Like he said, maybe the township in the future is going to be broke because you're spending too much money. You ruined 2 soccer fields over there. I don't know what's building that. How many people in Falls Township has bought benefits from that? You have to,
From the
how
base-
many people has
from-
boats and go use that? How many money you spending now? It's like $2 million. For
No,
what?
it's more about the boat ramp. It's wasn't
boat
$2
ramp.
million, wasn't $2 million, but
1.2.
$1.2 million, so it's about half. Do we have I don't know, I didn't ask Mr. Gray for a count on how many people use the boat ramp.
Exactly. And I want to see, that is, I think so anything you want to do, you should first ask the people from Falls Township. We elect you guys, but we don't want you guys going to spend the money. You think it's a good idea. The Bylos Island is the same. We're going to spend like $2 million for, I don't think a lot of people is going to benefit for that. And how much money income is going to get the township for that? It's a lot of money. You should ask the people first to do anything because we elect you guys. I repeat again. But you know, I respect all ideas you have, guys, but the people have to know what is going on and how the money is going to be spent. Now another 16 million for another township building. Maybe it's taxpayers. They have to raise taxes and keep raising and raising taxes. You know, that is my opinion. And I want to find out too how it's going to go with the bridge and South Old Boulevard by Cabrini.
We are voting, we're going to vote tonight, actually. Item, is it 8? No, 9. Item 9 on the agenda is purchasing, actually, or possibly purchasing the actual bridge itself, and then we're going to have to get a contractor to put it in. So that's basically where we are. So we're going to take a step toward that tonight, and we'll take another step in next couple of weeks or so.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
That is my words. I'm resident 26 years here, and I want to get involved and try to come to the meeting and see what is going on. Thank you very much, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. Those are all the names on the list. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak? See no hands? Okay. All right, item 2 on our agenda is proposals from ACT Engineers for Byles Island project. Board members and the public will remember we had a presentation at our last meeting regarding 2 proposals for ACT Engineers, the company that we've hired to work on Byles Island. And I see Carol Besky and Rob Korkich are here to discuss these 2. And I'll ask them to come forward, please, and give us a little bit of an outline of what we're looking at.
Okay. Thank you for having us back again. And I thought maybe if you'd indulge me a little bit, I was going to do a little bit of recap of the Biles Island project. I thought it might be helpful to the general public that it might be here tonight, and as well as those that might be viewing your meeting down the line. So in terms of that recap, ACT Engineers, which I'm the president of, and I apologize for not introducing myself for the record. We were hired in 2010 to do the Biles Island Master Plan, and we did hold actually many open houses and public meetings right here in this room, where we had on every occasion anywhere from 20 to 30 to 40 to 50 people that attended those meetings to tell us what they would like to see at Biles Island, how they would like to have that piece of amazingly beautiful property on the Delaware River move forward. So we did listen, and we listened carefully to what those people had to say and what they would like to see happen there once the ownership of the Biles Island property was taken over by the town from Waste Management. So one of the things that we heard loud and clear was that everybody would like to have something happen at Biles Island sooner than later. And what we could identify as something that could happen sooner was the northern section of Biles Island, which is the tip that we keep referring to and we've talked about as the Phase 1, of which now I would like to term, Phase 1 is northern Biles Island. So with the cooperation of Waste Management, we started talking about how we could possibly take over that and actually get the public out there and for them to have access to it in the very near future. And we were kind of identifying the fact that it could be as soon as next year. So we did finish the Biles Island Master Plan, and we submitted that to the Township back in almost a year ago in October, I think it was, where you accepted the Biles Island Master Plan. And so the next thing that really took place was in early this year, Falls was wisely seeking some financial assistance and looking at possible grants to move forward with the development of the island. And now we're talking about the primarily looking, again, as I said, as the tip of the island, Phase 1, the North Biles Island. So one of the things that we were hired to do, ACT was again engaged to go to the DCNR, which is the Pennsylvania Department of Cultural and Natural Resources, and we were authorized to pursue grant money from them, which we did complete the application. It was quite a lengthy process, and in the course of doing that, we held several meetings, documentation, letters of endorsement from many of the boards and residents in Falls Township, as well as from Bucks County. So we were actually very encouraged, and we were very much encouraged by DCNR. The total grant application that we submitted to DCNR was $185,000 that would go towards development of Biles Island. But of that, $95,000 could be used for the Phase 1 Biles North piece of the project. So during the course of those efforts, we also, as I said, talking to Bucks County people, we learned something that you all knew in the first place, and that is that there is $940,000 of Bucks County open space money that has been targeted for Falls Township.
Is that 945?
Oh,
That wasn't, yeah.
Okay. And those funds would be eligible for this project. So what would have to happen next with that is the necessary application and the supporting documents would need to be completed and submitted to the county for those funds to come to Falls Township. And again, specifically for the Biles Island Phase 1, the north part of the project. So the other thing that is a fact that you need to keep in mind is that the DCNR funds require a 50% match. The Bucks County monies require a 25% match. But interestingly enough, Bucks County money can be used to match with DCNR funds, and DCNR funds can be used as a match with the Bucks County money. So that actually works out to be quite a nice situation for the town. Now, what we had submitted to you, and I'm going to address both proposals, and I think we're probably, and then I'll stop so you can ask questions. The first proposal that we submitted was for ACT to continue the work for additional funding for the project. The first thing that we would do under that contract is prepare an application for the $940,000 of the Bucks County open space money. And this contract would also allow ACT to continue with ongoing coordination with all the public agencies which play a major role in this, such as the PA, DEP, the Army Corps of Engineers, PennDOT, and of course DCNR. And then also to continue coordination with waste management, because certainly there's going to be critical issues that need to be addressed with waste in terms of the environment, in terms of access and dredging and placing soils in specific places that would work with the master plan. The contract also includes coordination meetings with other public and private interests and preparing presentation materials and exhibits. So at this point, we have probably identified about 12 other sources of funding, both in the public and private sector, that we would be looking at as part of this contract to see if we can get additional funds for the Biles Island North project. The second proposal that you had, and I will address that also, and then we'll get into details if you'd like. The second proposal is actually to do the design and the permitting for Phase 1, Biles North. That is the northern 40 acres of Biles Island that we are talking about giving access to the public as soon as possible. The proposal that you have is for preliminary and final design and bid documents. During the preliminary design, there will be additional meetings with the township to coordinate so that we present to you exactly what you and the residents of Falls Township would like to see specifically at Biles Island North. And the proposal that includes then the final design, which would be the environmental permitting, access to the site, the grading, the drainage, the stormwater management, the land surveying, and all the things that go with final engineering design. That would get you to the point where we would also prepare the bids and the specs and get you to the point where you could actually go out to bid with a contractor and then start construction going forward, and you could probably have all that done within a year if you move forward with the actual final design. So I hope that kind of spells out, how the process has worked, where some of the monies come from, what the contracts would do. And contrary to what I did here tonight, we have reached out to probably more than 150 people in Falls Township that have given us input, have suggested what they wanted, that have endorsed the project, that have been excited about it. And I have to say, one of the things that sticks in my heart is that I can remember one of the nights right here when a gentleman came up with a special needs child and said, I would just like to have a place that I can drive to and take my son to the river. And that was one of the things that I think was a driving force for at least my team in wanting to move this project forward. So on that note, I'll open it up to any questions. And Rob Corkage is here, so if it's anything that's really technical about engineering, I'm not the engineer, I'm the planner, then, well, I'll defer to Rob.
Okay. All right, my understanding, thank you very much, first off, for going through the chronology and also the two proposals. My understanding, just in discussions with board members informally, of the two proposals we're looking at that you mentioned, the one which is to continue the search for funding and implementation of a lot of that funding, $45,000, is one I think that board members are interested in moving on this evening. The second proposal the one that's more detailed in terms of actual design and construction documents and permitting for Phase 1 Northern Biles Island, is one I think that we're going to hold off on. I believe it's not necessarily money we budgeted for this year for that, and so I think we're going to hold off on that. But questions, and obviously it could be questions about either proposal from board members. Mr. Galloway?
I'm gonna pass just right now. Thank you.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes, thank you for the presentation. It was good to remember how we've gotten to where we are. And I don't mean to discount some of the opinions that came tonight that are not in favor of the project, but I'm glad you brought up the numbers of people that we had here who were actually excited. Obviously, we have a diversity of opinion, but it's good to know that there's, I think, solid support behind at least this first phase. A couple of questions I had around the matching funds. You talked about the DCNR grant and the county grant being able to match each other, but I wasn't following your train of thought in terms of how that actually affects the funding and how we can put these monies together to get the project done.
What it does mean is that whatever you decide to fund in the final, in the spend, I should say, in the final construction, let's say it's, whatever number it actually comes out to be when the design is completed, the money, that would mean that Falls Township itself would have to spend less money in terms of matching.
Okay.
Does that make sense now?
Well, yeah, that's a good start. That's
okay.
Of course what we like to hear. So
I mean, that part of what we're trying, of what I feel our mission was to get enough money from grants and outside sources so that you could continue to move this project forward and it would not be a huge financial burden for the residents of Falls Township. And so that's really how we got started with all of these efforts in the first place. It was just because certainly anytime you engage in a public project like this, you certainly are conscious of how much money you're going to spend. So anything we can find out there that is available, that certainly is what we're trying to do for the residents of Falls Township for the project.
And we are clear that the open space funds, the $940,000 from the county, which is part of their system of distributing funds to all townships, all municipalities in Bucks County, we're clear that we can use those for any part of Phase 1, the road access, those kinds of things, that those funds can go to those kinds of aspects of this project as well as just preserving open space. Obviously, we're not actually buying anything because this is going to come to us from Waste Management anyway. But
is that a legal question?
I think that's my question, and the answer is yes. We are very comfortable with the fact that we are allowed to use open space money for the purposes that we have for this project. It doesn't just need to be purchased to purchase property. If it is property that you already own that is going to remain undeveloped or for passive recreation, as this will be, that you are allowed to use that money to improve that property.
Okay. And all we need to do, because we're not actually purchasing the property, but it's coming to us in the future, we need to have something on paper from Waste Management to that effect that guarantees that the land is coming to us, correct, at some point?
Correct. Again, I defer to legal counsel.
I believe that the host agreement from a few years back should be sufficient because it states quite clearly in that host agreement that we have an option to purchase the property, and it's an irrevocable option. If the county requires something more specific, Waste Management will be happy to provide that for us. If there needs to be a separate document that indicates we will eventually be purchasing the property, Waste Management will be happy to provide that to us.
And we're purchasing it for the grand price of?
Well, the whole property is $1. We'll have to negotiate on just if we only buy a portion of it.
For the 40 acres, maybe we can get a good deal.
32 cents. Okay.
It may take many, many hours of legal work to negotiate.
I'm sure it will.
It's the $1.
Okay, just the last question I have is, you mentioned as you look for additional funding for us, were you speaking, you mentioned public and private sources. Were you speaking just for the Biles Island North or for the entire project if we move in that direction?
Right now, we are looking for anything we can find, quite honestly. I mean, you know, some of the monies that from DCNR will go towards the entire project, which we're not tapping at this point in time. But the, you know, the intent is to find whatever monies we can, and specific, I mean, if we can locate additional monies, which I'm hopeful they could go towards the initial part of the Phase 1 Biles North project.
And in terms of private funding, how would a private source be interested in this kind of project?
From the environmental point of view,
Right, okay, so
there
it could
are
be
often
a private nonprofit that is interested in
right.
contributing.
Well, there are also some public companies that are very much interested in the environment, and as part of their program, their kind of public programs, they really do give money towards environmental projects like this, or such as.
Right. Right. Well, as I've said before, I'm in support of the Phase 1. Obviously, the lion's share of the funding has already been received from Bucks County, and so I'll be supportive of it tonight. But I wanted to answer to those questions, so thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thank you. Mr. Dens?
I think he covered most of the questions about tonight. I have many comments, but I'll save those for board comment about the project. But that's all I have.
Okay. Mr. Rocco?
Thank you. I believe there was a 10-person committee formed early on for some input into this project.
Well, what we had was a steering committee that was, I don't remember, I think it was 6 or I honestly don't remember.
Yeah, around there.
But it was, yeah. But we had a steering committee that was representative from the town, and that was the primary what we termed the steering committee. And then we held public open houses in a variety of meetings with the Army Corps and with a variety of agencies and local residents to move the project, the master plan forward, so that we knew what it was that people wanted to see and wanted to have out there and what was important to them.
Okay, that's all I wanted to ask. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, can I?
Yes, sir.
So the bottom line on this is we're looking, if we vote for the first option, then we're going to spend $45,000 for you to pursue larger sources of funding.
Well, one of the big things we want to do with that, I mean, the answer to that is yes, and to hold a lot of coordination meetings. It's not just about funding, because there's going to be a lot of coordination meetings with Pennsylvania DEP, and if as well as actually getting the application to Bucks County. That's going to be a process. It's not that we can just call them and say, "Hey, we're ready," because they want to see what they'll want to look at the whole master plan for the island. They'll want to know what we're doing with the Phase 1 Biles North part of the project. So I mean, it's those kinds of things that will be covered with that $45,000. We've actually, I mean, I'm not saying this to say, "Oh, gee, good for you," but we've actually done a lot of this kind of on a volunteer basis, because our initial contract to do the DCNR application, it's much more complicated than people realize, and so we will continue to move that down the line. But that's really what it'll be, more efforts for funding and for getting the applications done, and coordinations and all that.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, could I ask one more question? Sure. I think access to the island and to the northern portion that we're talking about, hoping to get open next year, is one of the key issues, is it not?
That is correct, but that will be part of the phase. I mean, once we get into the actual engineering piece, until we can, start the engineering, we can't really talk to and have discussions with PennDOT about what we want to do or what we need to do, or to do traffic counts or do the things that have to be done. That really is part of the engineering contract, that the larger contract.
And it might require a new bridge or widening, or we have no idea at this point.
We have no idea, but we really. Rob, do you want to address the? I told you, I'm not the engineer.
We have expectations that for a limited amount of access, that the existing, I call it informal driveway, because I don't think it's officially sanctioned in every way, but we all know where it is. that would become formalized, and there'd be a limit to which that probably could accept traffic. And I think the initial presence that the township was anticipating would keep that relatively small and modest. Part of the work that needs to be done is to say not only for how big could Phase 1 be in order and still support that access before we really need to consider a larger access, which might be for other portions of just the northern part, or also ultimately for Biles Island generally, depending on what how the master plan is implemented. But there's an expectation that that will accommodate some initial opening to the public, but we have to get into it to find out.
Great, thank you. I'm excited to think that we could get hiking trails, walking trails, areas open for birders, for people to visit. I remember statistics I was reading that showed that one of the key things new home buyers look for is access to trails and access to open space, and then also that the access to those things, proximity to them, actually increases the value of homes.
Yeah, I'll just do a reminder of, one of the things that is really valuable with the Biles Island, it can become a destination for bird watchers, and from an economic engine point of view, Cape May, New Jersey, which is, as we all know, is like, one of the capitals of bird watching. I mean, they assume that like nearly $28 million every year comes into their economy just because people are coming there. And that's one of the things that we talked about when we talked about doing Biles Island in general, is that it really can become an economic engine, and it can become in small ways. I mean, bird watchers need a place to stay, they need a place to eat, they have a destination. So it's all those things that kind of tie in together, and you can view the island as an economic engine going forward. So, I didn't mean to expound on that.
No, thank you. Those are my questions. Thank you.
I think a lot of the questions I had were answered, and by your presentation and by the questions that have already been asked by board members. I wanted to turn to excuse me, Mr. Gray for a second. You got I know that I think it was Mr. Dens who emailed you, just asking you about maintenance for Phase 1 for Biles North, and how would it affect our public works in terms of having to maintain this extra piece once it, hopefully in a year or so becomes part of our park system. What did you find out in terms of looking into that?
Yes, Township considered comparing this to the Falls Township Community Park. It would be very similar, where Public Works would be down doing various duties. Probably wouldn't be much grass cutting, maybe weed whacking, trimming, that type of work. There could be mutt mitt stations, there could be trash cans, that type of work. So a lot of the cost would be related to payroll related. There'd also be security guards down there as well. There'd be equipment. There might be tables that might be put down there, benches. Cost probably $30,000 to $40,000
a year.
A year.
Okay.
You say security guards, you don't plan on putting up full-time security
No,
guards,
just
patrolling
doing
like they do
pass-bys.
everything else?
Yes. They do pass-bys also at the Quaker Penn boat ramp.
Oh,
They
yeah.
would just do another drive-by at Biles Island.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Is there public comment needed? See a few hands. Is there a motion to open public comment?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Mr. Kinney?
I heard the young lady say she held a lot of meetings in here and she met around 150 people. Well, there's 35,000 people in Falls Township. 150 don't mean anything. It's put on, I wouldn't mind seeing it put on the agenda, see what the people think of it, and let them vote on it. Thank you.
Okay. Just to remind Mr. Kinney, it's on the agenda this evening, and it's been on the agenda a dozen times or so over the past 2 years. But okay, you meant the ballot. Mr. Mariani.
Be brief. I heard what Mr. Snipes said about people when they want to move in, they look for trails and they can watch birds and so on and so forth. But let me tell you what business people look for before they move into a township and before they're going to do anything concerning a heavy capital investment, which is what you want. You don't want a guy to come in and open a candy store. You want a heavy capital investment so you know he's going to be here. One of the things that businessmen look for is what's the current level of taxes and what they estimate they will be, and what is the tax burden going to be when you run out of host fees? So keep that in mind. I understand what you're saying, Mr. Snipes. Try to understand what I'm saying.
Sure. Thank you. Any other public comment? See no hands. Is there a motion to close public comment?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so we have two proposals from ACT this evening. One for the strategy development implementation for Biles Island in the amount of $45,000. The other for the Phase 1 engineering, which is in the amount of $220,000. Again, my understanding was that board members were interested in moving forward with the strategy development and implementation part, $45,000.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask
Yes.
a question? The second proposal for $220,000, would that be, that is obviously part of the full cost of the project?
Correct.
Toward which our county funds can be applied, correct? Okay. Thank you.
Is there a motion in terms of awarding either or both of these proposals?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we award the contract for $45,000 for the Biles Island Strategy and Development Implementation to ACT Engineers.
Second.
Okay, motion is made and seconded. Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dent?
Yes.
Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
Okay. All right, and as I said, I think we're going to come back to the larger piece of that, at some time in the probably not too distant future. Okay, but I want to thank the representatives for being here this evening, and let's keep moving forward.
Thank you.
Okay, item 3 is consider Fairfield Hills Fire Company Memorandum of Understanding. Mr. Gray.
A memorandum of understanding for Fairless Hills Volunteer Fire Company to be part of the Bucks County Fire Task Force has been prepared for board consideration tonight. Representing the Fairless Hills Fire Company is Chief Kevin DiPolito.
Good evening.
Chief, thank you for coming out.
Thank you for your time tonight. Before you is, as Mr. Gray said, a memorandum of understanding. Fairless Hills Fire Company was approached several years ago, actually, by the Counterterrorism Task Force for the Southeast Pennsylvania region. That is made up of Bucks, Montgomery, Chester, Philadelphia, and Delaware counties. At the time, we had some other endeavors that we were deeply involved in and couldn't take on that challenge because there were some additional training requirements that we were going to have to involve ourselves in, specifically related to counterterrorism, chemical, biological, nuclear type weapons and such. So for that reason, we put it off at that time. We were again approached earlier this year, and at the time, I gave considerate amount of consideration into joining the task force, and it seemed like the right thing to do at that time. A little bit about the task force. The task force has many divisions. There are police divisions, multiple divisions of fire. By that I mean engine companies, ladder companies, heavy rescue companies, and so on. We were asked to join to be part of the task force as an engine company. We agreed to do so. We submitted the appropriate paperwork. The mutual aid agreements are in effect and such. And we joined actually at the beginning of May. I believe it was within a week of our joining it's called the Bucks County Fire Task Force that we are part of. We were activated to the forest fires that you may remember took place in Berks County in early May. Our job was not to fight fires, our job was to protect structures because their fire services out there were taxed and they needed help. So we went out there and protected homes. It is an outstanding program. Our police department is part of it and has been for many years as part of the SWAT team. I believe also the MERT team is part of it. So the Memorandum of Understanding is another step in formalizing the agreements that all the agencies have together. Basically, and the solicitor may need to clarify some things, but basically it says that we will support them, they will support us at no cost to each other. We will not look to them to reimburse us for costs, nor would we do the same to them if they came or if we were helping each other. That's pretty much it in a nutshell. It's basically formalities that I sent you. It requires the approval of not only myself as the chief of the department, but also the municipality that we work under the authority of, as well as the county emergency management coordinator.
Okay. All right, yeah, it seems pretty straightforward. Thank you for explaining it as well as you did. Any comments or questions for Chief DiPolito? Mr. Galloway?
Well, it sounds like an honor, and I'm proud that your company's part of that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Snipes?
No, no questions.
Mr. Dents?
None.
Mr. Rocco?
I have none.
Any public comment needed? See no hands, so it seems pretty straightforward. So we would just be approving the memorandum of understanding, right? It's not a resolution, correct? All right, so is there a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding regarding Fair Hills Fire Company and the Southeastern Pennsylvania Regional Firefighting Task Force?
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks.
Item 4 on our agenda is consider resolution for the municipal grant program for the Bucks County SWAT team. Mr. Gray?
Yes, the police department is requesting the board consider a resolution to be included for the 2013 casino grant application. Here tonight representing the police department is Lieutenant Ward.
Good evening.
Evening.
Last year, we applied for this grant, and we were awarded, I believe it was $217,000. The way it works is we don't geographically border Bensalem, which is under the law, but Bucks County has the ability to approve a project if you don't geographically attach to Bensalem. The reason we do that is our SWAT team is a lower-end SWAT team. It consists of Bensalem, Bristol Township, both of them obviously geographically border them. Falls Township is a member of that team. We currently have 40 members, so what we're trying to do is spread the cost out. If there was a call out to the casino right now, Falls Township would be sending 12 police officers there, which is a big cost to us. The training, the equipment, etc. So what we did last year is we tried to test balloon, if you lack of better terms, and the county did support us. In order for us to move forward this year with this grant, we're asking for a combined total of $278,000. We have to get the board's approval in a resolution form. Tomorrow night is the county commissioners meeting. I have to go before there and explain our program, and they have to support it. If they support it, then I can go before the redevelopment authority and do a presentation there. We did have some feedback from them this year. We actually had them come out to one of our SWAT trainings, and we showed them everything that we bought last year and what we're using. They were pretty impressed, and they seemed like they would be receptive if we put another application in this year.
Okay. And board members have before them just a summary of the things that are being requested. I'll go over it vaguely in terms of bulletproof vests, uniforms.
If you want, I can explain everything real quick.
I think it's relatively self-explanatory. Training, software, some other equipment that's used, or hopefully it doesn't ever have to be used by the SWAT team. Better to put it that way. But I'll let board members ask questions about it and specifically, and obviously you were very successful in getting it last year, so hopefully your string will continue and you'll be successful this year as well. Mr. Galloway, comments or questions?
I just hope you continue to success in obtaining the grant.
Thank you.
Mr. Snipes?
No, same here. Thank you.
Mr. Dents?
No, I think you did a lot of hard work last year, and you got the grant, and hopefully it works out again this year.
Mr. Rocco?
I have no questions or comments.
Okay. Any public comment needed? See no hands. Okay. So resolution, this would be 12-19. 19. Okay, is there a motion to approve resolution 12-19?
I'll make the motion to approve resolution 12-19.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Good night. Okay, items 5, 6, and 7 are very, very similar, and so while we have to approve them in 3 different resolutions, we are going to ask Mr. Gray to sort of summarize them each just so we get an understanding what an MMO is, why we have 3 different MMOs. We'll take public comment at one time rather than 3 different times, since it's largely the same issue 3 times over. So this is a budgeting issue, essentially. It's a state requirement, I believe, correct, Mr. Gray?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so just explain to us, for the public, what's an MMO? What are we doing?
Certainly. MMO stands for Minimum Municipal Obligation. We have 3 MMOs tonight for the board to consider. The first is a police MMO, second is a non-uniform MMO, and the third is Public Works. This MMO must be completed by year-end via a resolution. It is also used for budgetary purposes. So these numbers that the board would be asked to consider tonight would be included in the 2013 budget. The money that comes from the state funds a portion of the pension fund, and the money that is contributed by the state comes from out-of-state businesses doing business in the state of Pennsylvania. Their insurance premiums, 2% of the premium goes into a pot and is allocated to various municipalities around the state. Other money also comes from contributions from the township, and also for the police pension, that particular one has a officer contribution of 5%. Township has 2 defined contribution plans and 1 defined benefit plan. These MMOs are reviewed by Byron Barber, the township's actuary, and also Thomas J. Anderson, our township pension consultant, and they are completed by the finance director, Betsy Rukoff. So tonight we have 3 MMOs for the board to consider. The police pension plan, total MMO for that particular plan is $1,470,557. The second MMO for the Public Works is $60,188, and the third MMO is for the non-uniform pension, $108,171. And the board is asked to consider these 3 resolutions tonight.
Okay. I'll ask an obvious question first. Obviously, police pension covers police officers, Public Works pension covers Public Works. Who exactly is covered by non-uniform?
Non-uniform includes the AFSCME personnel, the non-union employees, department heads, full-time workers, covers myself, and that would go into the non-uniform pension plan.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. Comments or questions regarding these 3 minimum municipal obligations? Mr. Galloway?
No questions.
Mr. Snipes?
You said the one for the police pension is $1,470,557, correct?
Yes, I believe that's correct.
Yes, that's what I have.
Okay.
Yes, that's correct.
All right, that's it. Thank you.
Mr. Dents?
No.
Mr. Rocco?
No.
No. Okay. Any public comment needed? See 2 hands. Is there a motion to open public comment?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Ms. Mariani?
I don't have any question on the police pension. That's pretty much covered by Act 600. But you said we do have the other pensions. You have a defined benefit pension and the defined contribution
2
plan.
defined.
2 defined contribution plans.
2 defined.
That's correct.
You don't have any. They're both contribution plans.
Public Works and non-uniform, yes.
Okay. I misunderstood. 5% is normal as apple pie. I would like to see the employees also contribute 5%, though.
Okay. Mr. Kinney?
I'm just looking at this. Just want to thank Mr. Gray. He's doing what the people asked. And it's very thick. It's too thick. But thank you.
Just for the record, Mr. Kinney was holding up a copy of some of the materials that board members look at. A resident a few months ago had a suggestion that some things should be left out for people to take a look at. And so that was done. Okay, thank you. Any other public comment? See no hands or a motion to close public comment?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so item 5, just going in order, the police pension plan would be Resolution 12-20, correct?
Yes.
Okay, is there a motion to approve Resolution 12-20?
I make a motion to approve Resolution 12-20.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. 12-21 would be the non-uniform pension. Okay, is there a motion to approve 12-21?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution 12-22 is the Public Works pension, MMO. Is there a motion to approve 12-22?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Gray, and thank Mrs. Rukoff for putting those together for us. All right, item 8 is consider providing the township manager the authority to finalize the Penn's Grant tennis courts. Let's see. This is an issue regarding the 30-day responsible contractors period is going to be up relatively soon. I think it's later this week or early next week or something?
Later this week, yes.
Later this week. And so if we wait until our next board meeting, then obviously we're losing a couple of weeks worth of time when some work could be done. And so this agenda item would authorize the township manager to finalize the award for the Penn's Grant tennis court project as soon as he's able to do that, as soon as that 30-day period is up, and that way the work can get started as soon as possible. Comments or questions on that? Something we've done pretty routinely at times when things fall in between meetings, and we don't want to put a delay on anything. Mr. Galloway, any comments or questions?
No questions.
Mr. Snipes?
No, makes sense to me.
Mr. Dents?
None.
Mr. Rocco?
None.
Okay, any public comment? See no hands. Okay, is there a motion then to grant Mr. Gray the authority to finalize the Penn's Grant tennis court projects as soon as possible?
Yes.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. Consider purchase of South Olds Boulevard culvert equipment. Okay, Mr. Gray?
Yes, the township received a letter dated September 17th from Jim Sullivan at T&M Associates regarding the South Olds Boulevard culvert replacement purchase. T&M reviewed the bid submitted to the township and publicly opened on September 14th. One bid was received. The bidder's name was Contact Engineered Solutions. The base bid was $112,500. The alternate was $79,200 for a total bid of $191,700. Contact Engineered Solutions, LLC, is the lowest responsive bidder. It is recommended that the Board of Supervisors authorize the Township Engineer's Office to issue a notice of intent to award to Contact Engineered Solutions for the base bid plus the alternate for a total bid cost of $191,700. The board is asked to consider this purchase at this time.
All right. Mr. Sullivan, you just want to explain the reasons for the alternate in there and also compare this to the previous bids that we had a few months ago.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The previous bid was for the entire project, installation and supply of the culvert. Both bids came in well over the budgeted amount of $350,000. Both bids came around $600,000. So we decided to split the bid into we'll purchase the culvert and then prepare an installation specification to hire a contractor to install the culvert. What we have here tonight is the culvert base bid is $112,500, and both previous bidders had this information, but somehow they wanted a lot more for the culvert than what we're going to pay for it. Not sure how that happened. The alternate bid is for a precast footing, which, if supplied by Contact Engineered Solutions, they would deliver to the site. Installation contractor will put that in and then put the culvert on there. As part of the installation spec, we will also ask for a cost for a cast-in-place footing. So we may or may not actually use the alternate bid, but at this point, we'd like to issue a notice of intent to award, and not just an award, because we're not sure who that installation contractor is. and I'm not sure how long it's going to take to get everything together for that. It's actually an award of the bid. There's no responsible contractor when we're doing a purchase.
Right.
But we'll issue a notice of intent to let Contact know that we intend to use their product.
Okay.
And we'll give them a notice of award when we get a installation contractor.
Okay. All right. Questions, comments for Mr. Sullivan or about the project in general? Mr. Galloway.
No questions.
Mr. Snipes.
No, we've been waiting for a while. I think we need to move ahead.
Mr. Dents.
None.
Mr. Rocco.
I have none.
Okay. All right. So I guess in essence, if we go out to bid for a contractor and we ask him what it's going to cost him to pour in place footings, and it ends up being more expensive than $79,200, we'll just go with this instead.
That's correct.
Okay. Okay. All right. So it's pretty straightforward. Public comment? See no hands. Okay. Is there a motion then to issue a notice of intent to award Contact Engineered Solutions, base bid plus alternate bid, $191,700 for the South Olds Boulevard culvert replacement?
So moved.
Seconded.
Motion made and seconded. Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
Okay, next item on the agenda, minutes for the 21st of August and the 4th of September. We'll do them one at a time. Well, actually, we'll do comments on the August 21st minutes. Comments or questions, corrections of any kind?
None.
None.
No. No.
Okay, any comments, questions, corrections for September 4th?
No.
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 Okay. Is there a motion then to approve the minutes for both dates, 21st of August, 4th of September 2012?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
Thank you, Mrs. Pullen.
Engineers report and dated September 14th, 2012. This is the August engineering report. Mr. Sullivan, want to go through, hopefully there's some highlights in here of something?
Thank you. Most of the highlights we've discussed tonight about the senior center is prepared to start on or about October 1st this year. Sorry. The culvert and the soccer fields are getting ready to get started or in the stages of becoming closer to get started. The 2012 road program has started with removal of the trees that are in between the curb and sidewalk, and there's also been some milling of trenches along Valley Road. So storm sewer installation will begin on Valley Road very soon. Also, the Three Arches Historic Building Project got started last weekend. General Asphalt Paving Company, our road contractor, is also doing that project, and that seems to be moving along as well as could be expected.
Okay. Comments or questions for Mr. Sullivan regarding his report? Mr. Galloway?
No questions.
Mr. Snipes?
No, thank you, Mr. Sullivan.
Mr. Dents?
What's the status of our ball field? I haven't been down there in a little while.
He's been down there fixing it, going to replace the sod, plant some more grass. We figured out an interesting way to irrigate the infield. Put in basically a box that can be filled with water, and it will leach out water into the field in dry conditions. So that's something new that we've added. Of course, no cost to the township.
That's all I had.
Mr. Rocco?
I have one question for International Salt. Looks like they pulled out of, they were going to build a 20,000 square foot salt.
Yeah, they submitted and then a couple days later pulled it back. Not really sure what that's all about.
Okay, that was about,
Yeah.
if you knew what was going on there. No, good report, thank you.
Okay. Is there a motion to accept the engineer's report as presented?
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Bill list for September 18th, 2012 is in the amount of $2,443,603.46. Of that, about $1 million is for health insurance and payroll, and another million plus is for general asphalt for the road program, plus about $95,000 for workman's compensation, I believe, insurance. So we have, $2.4 million road program, and basically $2 million of the 2.4 is salaries, benefits, and the roads. So we can see where, most of the money's going. I think this month, again, we spent more. I know Mr. Clark is not going to be happy to hear this. We spent more on gasoline this month than we did on legal fees. So maybe you're in the wrong business.
We've been filling up all of our cars. So that's how we're trying to be.
So, comments or questions regarding the bill list? Mr. Galloway?
No questions.
Mr. Snipes?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Dents?
No.
Mr. Rocco?
No.
Public comment needed? See no hands. Motion to pay the bills, $2,444,603.46.
So moved.
Second.
All right, Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dent?
Yes.
Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
Okay, executive session, we don't have a need for an executive session. Manager comment, Mr. Gray?
I have nothing, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay, boy.
Nothing.
Boy, somebody's not earning their pay. All right, board comment, Mr. Dents?
Oh, sure.
Shake it up a little bit.
I'm gonna, we've been talking a lot about Biles Island and this northern part. And there's a lot of talk about the master plan, which is something that we had to develop before we could get any grant money. We had to develop a master plan for the whole island. Even though the majority of that island could be 20 years away, if ever, we may never see any of that island. The very northern part, where we've all been and we've taken tours, that has been restored, is something that we can use now, which initiated the master plan, the moving forward. We knew we could get that part of the island, which is why we moved forward. There's talk of boat ramps. There's no boat ramp involved in this part of the island. There's no restaurants. There's no green energy centers. There was a lot of things in the master plan that have absolutely nothing to do with what we're doing now in the northern part of the island. The northern part of the island is a beautiful, already restored area. It's a walking trail that we may put some boardwalks down. A nature center, you think of Churchville Nature Center or 5 Mile Woods in Lower Makefield. This has the potential of being even greater because this has river access, which is something that none of them have. But there's a lot of talk about things that have absolutely no part in the northern part, which are the master plan and so forth. And I've had a few people ask me about that, they're talking about this and that, there's another boat ramp. There's no boat ramp in the northern part of this. It's a beautiful restored trail that goes around a lake. There's beavers down there. There's a nest for bald eagles. There's all kinds of stuff going on down there. And I wish people could see it. I wish more people could have gone on the tour to see what's actually down there and how nice this is. And the maintenance that's going to be required there, like Mr. Gray said, is minimal. It's just another stop on the route of Public Works and the park security. And I think it's a great opportunity. Some people say there's no need for this. And no, there's not a need, but it's an opportunity to have something great in Falls Township as far as a nature center goes. And that's all I had for tonight. That's all I have.
Okay. Mr. Galloway?
No comments this evening, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Snipes?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good meeting this evening and also a good event today at the Falls Township Senior Center when there was a groundbreaking for the addition to the building. Was very well attended. Obviously, there's a lot of support at the Senior Center itself. Their board was there. Obviously, they pushed this and worked through some of the resistance in different quarters. And I think after 12 years of work, it's finally going to happen. So it was a great day to be there, to be supportive of them, and to be able to support the work that they really have made happen. As I was there, I was thinking about the role of government, and as we are having this broader conversation in our country about government, the relation of government to citizens, and especially the question of spending and government expenditures. I was thinking, how do we decide what we will spend money on and what to support in the community and what we will not do? And as I was there at the Senior Center, I thought, well, being here and seeing what they need, seeing the support, how could you decide this was something that we would not do, especially if we can come up with the funds to do it? The question is not a lot of talk about cutting government expenditure these days. And I know Falls Township's in a different position because we are in a very sound financial shape compared to some other municipalities. But I heard a speaker recently who said, the question is not running around slashing government spending. The question is to decide how much civilization you want. Once you've determined how much civilization you want, then you decide how you're going to raise the money and how you're going to pay for it. So in our, if you want to call it civilization, do we want to have a place for older residents to come to? Do we want to have ball fields for kids to play on? Do we want to have a special field that children with disabilities can play on? Do we want to have a dog park that residents can actually have a place that they could run their dogs off the leash? All these questions come up, and that's why on the board and with interaction of the public, we decide what we're going to spend money on. And as I said, we're in a better position than a lot of other municipalities because of the good financial shape we're in. But one of the ways I know that we have not overspent, at least from my perspective, is because there is more money in the bank, much more money in the bank now than there was when I came on the board almost 12 years ago. We're in excellent shape. I think we've been pretty prudent. Could we have done some things differently over the years? I guess we could have. But in general, the sound financial shape we're in, I think, speaks volumes for the kinds of decisions that this board and boards before us and hopefully boards after us will make. So I don't think it's a thing where we have to sort of divide into camps. We need to decide what kind of community we want, and then how do we pay for that? And that should be a creative process, not one where we're screaming at each other. And there were both Democrats and Republicans there supporting what happened today at the Senior Center. So I think it was something that the whole community could come around and support. So it was a good day, and as some folks said, it'll be even a better day when we go and actually do the ribbon cutting and have the folks be able to move into their new space. So thank you, and I think that's it.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Rocco?
I have no comments. Thank you.
Okay. I want to echo Mr. Snipes' comments. It was certainly in roughly the 8 years I guess I've been on this board. It's or 9 years, just about. I've been on this board. It's there've been a lot of things, a lot of votes that have made me sort of feel good about what I'm doing and feel like you're helping the community. But very little matched just being there today and seeing a lot of the faces that I've been seeing at that Senior Center for the past 4 or 5 years, talking about this project and just waiting for it to happen and waiting for it to happen. And it seemed there was always one more hurdle we had to get over in terms of making it a reality. And finally, it looks like it's it's going to be a reality very, very soon. And hearing, and it sounds sort of flippant or sort of crass to say it, but hearing some seniors a few years ago who doubted whether or not they'd see it, quite frankly, and they were being very honest, and because they were hitting delay after delay after delay of different things out of our control, really, that just kept pushing it back further and further, and they started to worry that I've worked on this, I've wanted to see it, I really want to see this happen, I might not be here. They were here today, so it was a great thing to be there, and just a lot of thanks to the whole board, from all the seniors who were there, all the members of their board, their director. Really thankful to the work that Falls Township has done. Board of Supervisors, Mr. Sullivan, and his office. Really, it's been a great effort here in the community. Something we can be really proud of, and it'll be an even better day when those backhoes and front-end loaders are out there digging stuff up, and it'll be an even better day, like Mr. Snipes said, when we can go down and cut a ribbon. So, a lot of discussion tonight, too, about things like the boat ramp and other projects and getting public input. I think one of the things that we've done, and I think Mr. Snipes and Mr. Prokopiak really pushed for this even before I was on the board, was being as open as possible about things that were going on and trying to get as much public input as we could. We're always looking for more volunteers for our boards and commissions. In fact, there was one email that came in that I'm going to address in a second from somebody who wants to be on one of our boards. And I know that I brought up the issue of the boat ramp before I was ever chairman, so that's going back to 2006 or 2007, possibly even earlier than that. And I remember being on the Planning Commission in 2003 or 2004, or even 2002, actually, 2002, 2003, when people were bringing up the idea of a boat ramp. And we had, numerous meetings over years and years to try and to have people come out. And just over the weekend, I had a neighbor of mine who thanked me for putting the boat ramp in, and it's great, and they would have liked to have seen Waste Management's road a little bit more, a little smoother than it is, but that's not necessarily under our control. And it definitely is something I think that people are using. Again, we don't necessarily have numbers. It's not hard to get them, but we just don't necessarily ask for constant updates like that. Mr. Gray obviously has enough things to do without doing that for us. Certainly, not everyone's going to agree with the things we do, and that's just the reality of things. But it is, we do take a lot of time and effort to try and get as much input as we can. I don't think we've really rushed through much of anything. Biles Island, as you heard, was 2 years ago. We hired this firm to start looking at it, and here we are 2 years later, and we're still, in many ways, still in the planning stages. And people were talking about us rushing. The boat ramp they opened last year, so we're talking, 5 years or so to go through from the time it was first raised to the time we actually, had a boat go down there. The same thing is true. The skate park, was being talked about before I was ever a part of any part of this government. It was being discussed, and that took years and years to go through. So, so we do take pride in trying to get as many opinions as we can. But again, we understand we're not going to please everybody, and we're being very, very, I think, very conscious of the money we're spending, and making sure that we're doing things that can sustain themselves at some point, anyway. And are kind of as low maintenance as we can make them, like Mr. Dent said. The people that obviously most people haven't been to Biles Island, and once you go there, you're going to see there really isn't a whole lot of maintenance that has to happen. You're going to have a couple trash cans that have to be emptied, and like Mr. Gray said, it's mostly trees, so you're not going to be cutting any grass. The trails are pretty much there already because Waste Management uses them to do patrols just to make sure that the property's secure. So there is very, very little maintenance that has to happen there. And so in terms of costs, there really isn't much with that. And that's something we're conscious of. But we welcome people's opinions, but obviously we want to put our side out there as well. We did get an email. I was sent this email last week, and I asked Mr. Gray to forward it to people on the board, other board members, from a gentleman named Bob Hedden, who is interested in being on our Community and Economic Development Commission. That is a board that right now has 3 members. I believe it's actually supposed to be a 5-member board. Mr. Hedden was a longtime member of the Falls Township Fire Company, active in the community, and is on another one of our boards. So board members can obviously take a look at his letter. His email address is there. He didn't leave a phone number, but his email address is there if board members would like to call him just to talk about his thoughts or ideas about the CEDC. And then I guess in a couple weeks, we can decide whether or not we're interested in appointing him to that position. Okay. And let's see. I believe that was it. All right, well, thank everybody for a productive meeting, members of the public for coming out, and professionals and board members, obviously. And I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's